Hey guys, this is Sam and we are in the new workshop. So yeah, today we're going to be looking at the Tokyo Marui Recoil AK. So this is one of their kind of tactical versions, the AK 102 or whatever it's called. And so this is a little disassembly video. We're going to strip this down and you're going to see how it all comes apart. Now I have done a couple of little upgrades in here already. We have a new motor in here and a recoil service and an ASCU version 3 Gen 3 to replace the trigger. So there are a couple of little differences, but they're kind of useful things. So I'll be able to show the modifications we had to do to the gearbox to get that MOSFET in. So I'm just gonna apologize for the weird kind of angle that the camera's sitting at. We're in the new workshop and I'm at my kind of temporary desk at the moment, so the camera kind of angle and position isn't as ideal as I'd like, but yeah, so we'll get started. First of all, on this model, we'll just lift up this catch here. The AKS74U has a little button that you kind of push in here to remove the top of the grip. So we've got some nice Dean's Ultra wire with a Dean's connector on there. So to remove the lower grip, we're going to take our 2.5mm Allen key. See if I can, there we go. Just let's just adjust where the light's coming from so maybe you guys can see a little bit better. Down she goes. So that's maybe, there we go, that's a little bit better. So let's take this screw out here. I'm going to place that over the top of my mat up there, and that allows this to come out. So usually there's a little kind of insert along here and you've got your fuse assembly, and then here instead of solder joins you have some little kind of quick detach spade connectors to allow you to remove the front kind of assembly there. And that allows you to do that without kind of pulling and tugging on the wire. So you just clip that off and the rest comes apart nicely. So to get into the rest, we're going to have to take our top off. And for the next part, we're going to need a tri-wing driver. So this has, it's kind of like a Phillips head, but it only has 3 kind of lobes, 3 kind of little bits there. So you can get these on Amazon or eBay, and Eagle 6 sell them now as well. They're pretty cheap, a few pounds. This is the, what size is this? 0x3 or something. It's the third size in the little small set you can get off Amazon. So that will allow us to take out these screws on our top cover here. So we're just going to unscrew them, put them in a nice pile up there. So there's 2 on this side. We're going to flip it over, nice and gentle, and then there's 4 on this side. There we go. Number 3 helps if I get in the end with the screwdriver. And number 4. Just there. Oh, she's pinged onto the motor. There we go. So before we take this off, we're going to take the spring and the guide off just here. So this is what allows our charging handle to ping around. We're just going to push that forward and then remove the spring and the guide. we're going to just get the selector out of the way and pull the charging handle assembly back. Now what I usually do at this point is just take this apart with the two little kind of Phillips head screws in there, and then the larger one here, just strip that apart, put some thread lock on the screws and screw it back together, because this is clanging around all over the place and those screws do like to work themselves loose. So I've already done that on this one. So now that that part is off, we can just remove our cover. It just comes up at the back and then slots off at the front, just like that. So let's put you to one side. Now the next thing we're going to do is just get the grip off. So one flathead at the bottom, and off you come. There we are, nice and easy, and that allows the grip to come off. So you'll see here, I've already installed a nice upgraded motor in here. This is an Action Army motor. It's the 30k high torque version, available at Airsoft World or through myself if you're having a build done. They're £50, and I mean they're pretty much the best stock motors. They are the best stock motors that money can buy at the moment, without going into kind of really ridiculous prices, you know, £120 for some of the like Systema and G&P ones, which are very good, but only marginally better than these for double or triple the price. So here, we're just going to take our, so you can get that in shot, we're just going to take the motor spades off. You can see that the wires come down nice and centrally here and then split off left and right. So that is the correct way to route the wires, just in case you forget. So what we're going to do now is take off the motor cage, because we cannot get the gearbox out without first taking off the motor cage. So I'm going to put the screws to one side. Apologies for my hands getting in the way there. There we go. So now the motor cage comes off, and we can put you to one side over there. Just going to clear off the side around my working mat. Got a few bits cluttering the way up there. So now we're at this stage. The next parts to come off are these 4 screws here. So again, we're on the whoopsie daisy. We're on the 2.5mm Allen key. Let's just get them off. Put them over there. So these 2 at the front are slightly shorter, and then the one that goes in the magwell, that's very slightly longer. And then we've got this screw here. That holds our stock catch in place, and there's a little spring mechanism in here that keeps that in the right position. So now we've got those screws off, we can go in here. Now we're going to need to take this little cover, the little plastic cover, just in here. We're going to need to take that off, and we'll need to take off this screw here. So there's 1, 2, 3 screws in here. We'll need to take off this one first. Put you to one side up here, and then this tiny little one here. Out you come. There we are. So then this cover comes off. Just be careful, this little bit here is quite easy to snap off if you catch it. So now we're going to need to take the hop adjustment wheel off. Put that screw to one side. That's got the nice kind of large flat head on it. And last but not least, we're just going to take our blowback spring off here. So ping that off and then just pull that up and off like that. So now this barrel assembly will just slide forward. Now you've got to make sure that it doesn't catch on here. It's quite easy just to get that caught. And there we go. So you can see here we've already installed an R-hop, and well, you can't see the R-hop, but there's an R-hop in here and a nice shiny edgy barrel. Now in here we have got our spring that keeps it tensioned against the front of the gearbox, and then in here there's a little plastic kind of ring spacer that sits just in front of the spring. So make sure when you take that out you don't lose that little plastic spacer. So now we're down to this stage, and there is one screw left hiding away, so we're going to fold over the stock, and then there's this screw just in here. I'm going to take that out. Now I lost the original screw, so it's just had a replacement identical but with a Phillips head on this one. Usually it is a 2.5mm Allen key head on that screw. So now we're at this stage, we can just slide the gearbox out. So we want to make sure that the gun is on safe. It's very important, because if it's in semi or full auto or semi, then the selector plate will be pushed back, and when you try and take out the gun, it's gonna damage that system. So make sure it's in safe, and then it all just lifts out nice and easy like that. So you don't need to touch the selector here. This system is all internal. It stays in the receiver. That was a mistake that I made the first time, very long time ago, that I tried to disassemble one of these. I didn't know how to do it, and I kind of guessed that it was the same as every other AK, where you've got to take this out or unscrew it or whatever. But no, that was not the case. So that would damage the key, the kind of keying on here that allows this to move. And yeah, this little nub here, very important that you're careful around that, because these safety kind of selector levers are virtually impossible to get replacements for. So now we've carefully disassembled that, we can chuck you to one side. So as you can see, this is the ASCU just in here with our thermal compound to help the MOSFETs transfer the heat into the nice metal gearbox shell that acts as a heatsink. And little modification to the selector plate. I'm not sure if you can see there. I've just taken off the metal plate, and there's a little kind of prong that sits on there. And I've also beveled the inner front edge just where it kind of meets the this kind of header here for the hop chamber. So I've just put a little kind of bevel on the inside of that so it doesn't get caught on that hop chamber, so that you can push it all the way forward. Now there's a little stopper built into the gearbox just here, and the selector plate needs to be able to hit that so that it sits in the correct position for going back in the receiver. So if you do decide to install an ASCU in your AK gearbox, just make sure that this can hit that stopper there. There we go. So let's crack open the gearbox. Now we have our recoil system on the top here, and this is the guide rod. Now the guide rod is held in place by this screw here. So we're going to take our T10 driver, just take that out, and that is one of the shorter screws. Just got to put that in the correct position. Now it's important to remember where the screws come from in this gearbox because they are all different sizes. So then we've got a Phillips head underneath, and the rest are torque. So I'm just going to take this one out at the front. So we've got our 3 screws nicely lined up there. Now before I do anything else, I'm just going to push that forward and take out our guide rod, and that will allow us to push this forward and lift it out. Now remember, there are 2 springs in here. There's the main recoil spring, and then there's the damper spring in there. So just be sure that you get them in correctly. We've got a little buffer pad at the front, and then the main recoil weight. With the arm still attached, you don't really need to take that out. Just make sure the screws are in nice and solid. So underneath we have our retention plate for the top of the gearbox. Before I take out the rest of the screws, I'm going to have to take off the wire retention plate. Just going to put the screws to one side. And that sits like that. There's 2 little kind of keys in here. 2 little keyholes in there, and then there's corresponding keys on the gearbox shell. So we'll just pull the wire out of the way, remove our sector gear cover, and now we've just got the 2 screws there. So again, these are different lengths and they go in specific places. So the longer one goes at the front, just put you over there, and then the shorter one goes at the back. Now I've just realised I've got these 2 mixed up. Well, that is not like me. So scratch that. We have the 2 longer torque head screws go at the back, and then this shorter one goes just here on the front. So that was my mistake. There we go. So now we've got this all open. We do not have the anti-reversal latch in this. It's not needed with the good motor with the strong magnets and the ASCU. But if you do, be sure to pull the anti-reversal latch before you open the gearbox. So I've taken a little Kirby grip bobby pin and bent it into this sort of question mark shape with a little hook at the end. That allows me to get in and pull that anti-reversal latch out if it were there. But it's not, so we can just move on to the next stage. We're going to hold down our spring guide and flip this over. And that is how we get into the gearbox. So I'm going to take our nice bearing spring guide out, place you over there. We've got a fantastic Eagle 6 spring here, and we're using FLT bushings in this with SHS gears. They're pretty decent. A nice kind of upgraded cylinder head. The cylinders for these are actually very good quality, so there's no need to change that out particularly. Now, just here you can see where I have ground out So just this little bit here. Just here. Oh, there we are. So I've had to Dremel that out to fit the ASCU in. A little bit there. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I had to do any modifications to the lower half of the gearbox. Trying to remember. No, I think it was just the top half. We've got the ASCU cutoff lever in there. Works perfectly. Yeah, so just this little bit here had to be Dremeled out so that the kind of longer board can fit in. You will have to join the wires just like this though. So you join the little signal wire just under the heat shrink there, and that allows you to have just your 2 wires going forward. Otherwise it gets a little bit cramped going through the wire routing channels. So there we go, that is a complete disassembly of the TM Recoil AK with a couple of nice little features. And have I ported that? I have. So here you can see I've even ported the piston head so you don't get any negative pressure on the reverse stroke. There we go. Very nice, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Chuck any questions down below and I will answer them as soon as I can. And yeah, see you next time.